Welcome to the Forager Podcast, where I talk with cottage food entrepreneurs about their strategies for running a food business from home. I'm David Crable, and today I am talking with Amie and Jamie. Amie Anderson and Jamie Krake live in Ypsilanti, Michigan, and sell donuts with their cottage food business. It's a Good Day Donuts. This dynamic couple have quite the interesting startup journey. They actually started making donuts to gear up for the launch of a full-on cafe, and then this little thing called the pandemic hits, throwing a huge wrench into their plans. But despite that, their new home-based donut business really took off during the pandemic, and they haven't looked back since then. Amie and Jamie started this business to have fun and to spread joy to their local community, and you will see that that's certainly evident in all aspects of their business. In this episode, you'll hear how they have grown this into a very serious business, all while sticking true to their core values. In my previous episode, episode 51, you might recall that I shared the top 8 traits of successful cottage food entrepreneurs, and if you pay attention as you listen to this episode, you'll notice that together, Amie and Jamie leverage every single one of those top 8 traits. All right, with that, let's jump right into this episode. Welcome to the show, Amie and Jamie. Nice to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
So can you take me back to when you started this? I know you started, I think, at the beginning of 2020. How did this whole business get started?
We really started thinking about this in late 2019. Jamie and I, at that point, we've been married for about 10 years. We have 2 elementary school children, had full-time jobs, and also we're helping, our parents are starting to get to that age where they were aging. So we had lots of things pulling us in different directions. But the one thing we thought we were kind of missing in our life was things that we were passionate about, like hobbies, or we didn't really have that. We were just kind of going through the motions. We had a little bit of, a struggle in our family. My dad did get really sick, and he was a chef and had to retire a little earlier than expected. So together, the 3 of us had plans to run a diner, a seasonally operating diner. So it would operate just during the summer months.
It was at a campground too. So as the story evolves, that's an important thing to note, right before the pandemic started.
Right. So we thought, our plan was, he was on the road to recovery. We were hoping he'd be healthy by summer of 2020. And together, the 3 of us, Jamie has a pretty extensive food service management background. Together, we would start this diner. And I really, really wanted to make donuts for the diner. I thought it would be just a great thing to do. Who doesn't love a donut? I certainly love donuts. And the one problem is that I had never made a donut before. And none of us were really bakers or donut makers. So we had to begin practicing in our home.
So let's back up a little bit, because, you said that Jamie had food service experience, and I'm just trying to get a sense for it seemed like kind of a very elaborate plan to start this food business out of nothing.
Oh, no, there was nothing elaborate about it. It was a fly by the seat of our pants decision that, we had been seasonals at this campground for quite a number of years and saw a lot of people come and go from there, and decided at some point that if there was ever an opportunity that we might consider running the cafe, that Bob would be the lead person and we would sort of help him from the background. And that opportunity presented itself around the same time that Amy's dad got sick.
Also, I think I am known for making very complicated decisions really quickly. I don't know.
She makes the decisions and the rest of us are left to pick up the pieces.
I'm definitely jump in feet first and then try to sort the details after. And this was no exception.
Okay, so you had this idea, and it came, this opportunity came in front of you, and what was it like trying to get that cafe off the ground? I know it's a pretty complex and interesting story.
Well, we're gonna let's stick. We'll get to that in a second, I think. But so the pandemic hit in the process of us trying to get the cafe off the ground, figure out what our menu was going to be, and there was a lot of back and forth with whether the diner was going to open or whether it wasn't due to COVID throughout the course of time. In the meantime, we continued to practice donuts, decided that we couldn't eat another donut by ourselves. And if we were going to continue making donuts, we should just try to sell them.
Yeah.
Which is what we ended up doing under the cottage food law, right? Little did we know that the pandemic, COVID pandemic was going to come and get in the midst of all of this, and it would blow up our donut business, and we would hit the ground running with that, which we did. While continuing to still have the cafe, diner sort of on the back burner, trying to work on that menu and sort of figure out what we were going to do with that. We did end up opening that diner, but being that it was in a campground in the middle of a pandemic, it was not very successful for us. So we decided not to keep running with something that wasn't going to work out for us when the donut business was going incredibly well. So we stuck with donuts, and we went all in on donuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know this definitely went in a direction you weren't expecting, because you thought you're going to start this diner that sold all sorts of things. You end up starting a business that sells mostly donuts. But I'm just interested, before I get into the whole donut business, like, what was that opening day like when you actually opened up the cafe? I know it was postponed a lot, but you did open it, and it looked like you sold quite a lot of different things.
We did. And had the pandemic not have sort of gotten in the way, it would have been, well, we opened 4th of July weekend.
Yeah. I would say it was very chaotic. And one of the things we learned from that experience, and I think is why we're treading very lightly at our next steps out of the cottage food industry, was we walked into a building that was extremely not cared for, I guess, to say it lightly. So the night before opening, my dad and a friend of his were replacing a water heater till about 3:00 in the morning,
so that we could open up next day,
6:00 the next morning. So we had like multiple equipment failures, and just really had to put a lot of time and energy into getting the facility to a place that could even, be
successful in general. Yeah. So yeah. And it was on one of, their busiest weekends. It was one of the first weekends, I think, that people were coming out, and they were open. It was very, very busy. We did well that first weekend, but it was chaotic. It was extremely chaotic.
Yeah, I know you did well, because I saw that you had actually a couple employees even that helped you out that first weekend. So you're definitely selling things. But I also am interested in, like, you put so much time and effort and energy into like trying to formulate this cafe idea. And, unbeknownst to you, this donut idea would kind of take it over. But like, how hard was it to actually step away from that idea and decide, this is not the right direction, considering you invested so much time and effort into that idea?
I think by the time we got to the point of making a decision to let the cafe go, we were all burnt out. I mean, I think the unknowns with COVID really took its toll on us, as well as the campground environment. And it was just, it was hard. It was just hard. Really,
the struggle with equipment maintenance, with the landlords, all of that really made it a very, very easy, I think, decision for us. And just as I said earlier, which probably isn't the most strategic business thinking, I'm definitely one to jump in with both feet, and that also could mean closing that door very quickly. So for me, it was very much about, okay, this is not working and this is awful. Like, how do we turn this around? Like, what are the next steps to be successful? And we knew that, like, we had this really loyal, amazing donut community, in our home base, sort of where we live in Washtenaw County, Michigan. So Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti area. We knew that we had loyal customers, that we had a loyal following there. And it was very easy for me to just go back to that, because, our reason for doing this was for joy, to have joy in our lives. Like, we had, we have full-time jobs. This wasn't about making money. This wasn't, I don't need this business to pay my mortgage. I need this business to fulfill my passion.
Yeah, it's been a hard couple of years for everybody, but we've had some with Amy's dad's, health issues. She also lost her mom, which I think she'll tell you a little bit more about in a little bit.
Yeah, 3 weeks before we were supposed to open, my mom died very unexpectedly.
So we had that thrown in there. But it's just been hard, and I think, I jokingly all along have said that donut saved my life, but really it kind of did. I mean, it really it really kept me, going. It gave us a lot of fun and a lot of enjoyment in a situation where that was lacking certainly throughout the last couple of years. So.
Yeah, that's certainly very apparent in like everything that I've seen about your business, and from the very name, it's a good day donuts. And, you have right plastered on the front of your website, spreading joy, spreading cozy. Can you talk a little bit more about how that mission has played out with your business and your customers?
I guess just like I said, in the most simple aspect, I think getting donuts delivered right to your door is always just super fun. And we really want, to continue to spread that joy. Like kids see, even, kids are in their pajamas, looking out the window, just jumping up and down, super excited to see you. We've transitioned to pop-ups,
in-person pop-ups,
and to the farmers market. And as our business has grown, we've really looked to expand what that means in terms of spreading joy. And part of that is like creating a sustainable community. And we really try to support our other farmer market vendors, use and highlight their products, and make our donuts from as many locally sourced ingredients as we can.
So we sell donuts, but I also like to say that, we also sell fun, right? Like we try to have fun themes around our donuts. We don't, we make some pretty fun flavors too, but we try to put a theme around most of our donut weekly offerings. We did a series of themes based off of Christmas movies over the holiday season that we did. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, we try to put a fun theme around most of the donut offerings that we have.
Yeah, I noticed that there's just fun in all aspects of your business. Like it's not just the donuts, but you sold other things with your business, and even things like, was a fad a year ago, but like the hot cocoa bombs, looked like you had a lot of fun with those, and even the naming of your marshmallows. You just there's a lot of creativity in your business. Can you talk about what you've created?
Sure. So cocoa bombs were kind of, that went viral, and we didn't really want to get into the cocoa bomb business because donuts were sort of our thing, but that was another Amie thing. Our customers kept asking, and then finally
someone said online, like, who locally makes these? And I was like, oh, we do, but we didn't have like molds, or we had never made a hot cocoa bomb before. And Jamie was like, what are you talking about? I was like, oh, we can do this. No problem.
If 1,500 cocoa bombs later last year, yeah, that was quite the adventure. But we offered cocoa bombs again this year. We didn't sell quite as many, but it was still a popular item. And again, like with our cocoa bombs too, I think the reason those have gone so well is we make our marshmallows from scratch. We make everything from scratch that we can. Sprinkles are hard to make from scratch, but if we can make it from scratch, we certainly do. From salted caramel to our edible cookie dough and everything, marshmallows, everything in between.
I did notice that, you said you locally source a lot of ingredients, and you also make things from home as much as you can, but that you also use a distributor for some items. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. We don't anymore. So that's a fun fact. And I think it really attests to how our business is growing. So again, when we first started in late 2019, early 2020, our focus was to make a cafe, and we didn't have the equipment or really the staff, anything to make donuts in large quantities from scratch. So we used a pre-baked donut and made toppings in like the stuff on top of it. Once that cafe ended and we decided to go full into the donut business, I mean, the only way to truly do that is to make everything from scratch. So we transitioned, we purchased commercial grade fryers that could be used inside our home. We have a ginormous 20-quart mixer. So we took the time to invest in the equipment that we needed to create the donut. And it's really essentially like the donut that I always had envisioned, but we couldn't do that at the time. But yeah, so now we don't utilize a distributor for anything except for like obviously like
flour
and sugar and whatnot. But now everything is made from scratch in house.
So, but you still do use a distributor for certain ingredients. Like, what was the process like for finding a distributor? Was that Jamie's food service experience coming into play?
A little bit. We had, having a small restaurant environment, we had to find a distributor that could meet our small order minimums and our ordering days. So we use GFS and we use US Foods, and we sort of partnered with both of them to meet need of what we were looking for. Once we transitioned away from that, we found that Restaurant Depot was a better source for us. Prices were better. It seemed to have more of what we were looking for in terms of ingredients.
And it's right down the street from our house. So it's definitely convenient.
All right, so you invested in a lot of equipment. I mean, like, how much did all this cost? Because I've seen in a picture you had like racks behind you as well. You said you got your mixer, you've got these fryers. Like, what did you actually invest money-wise into this equipment?
That's hard to say because some of the equipment came from the work that we did on getting the cafe ready to open. I mean, because we sourced a lot of it from online auctions. We got a lot of things that were used, less than $2,500 total. And that includes the mixer, the 20-quart mixer.
Mixer was really expensive. And again, it's always about like reinvesting in your business. I mean,
or you find yourself in the middle of making punchkis on Fat Tuesday and realize that your fryers and your mixer that you have isn't going to cut it. So you go out and buy one 8 o'clock at night on a whim.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And we had to we live in Michigan, so it was very cold, very icy. We had this like enormously heavy mixer in which Jamie and I, who are, just average
5'4", trying to push this thing through the snow up our steps on a sheet tray to get it in the house.
Yeah. So learn from us and prepare ahead of time. But again, no, we really just gradually, added equipment, again, just reinvested when we could. I think that at least with our core donut operation, we didn't really dip into like our personal savings or anything like that. It really all came from money we had made from our business and just continued to reinvest.
Okay, so let's go back to when you got this donut business off the ground, because I know you were testing it in early 2020 before the pandemic. Take me through, the pandemic hit and what happened. What was the trajectory of your business like?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think the pandemic hit and we, like I said, we have little kids. We have a daughter that was in preschool. We had an older son, and our life was just like everything stopped. It was crazy. And so we hit pause on the donut business for a little bit. We didn't know what to do. We needed to get our own affairs in order and figure out how we were managing all the pieces of our life. And then, we were like, well, here we are, and we're ordering everything delivery. Maybe other people will want some things delivered.
I think the biggest change that we made from before pandemic to after was we were doing in person, knock on the door, they open the door, we hand you the donuts. They pay us at that point. Once the pandemic hit, we transitioned from that to, okay, now you're going to place your order online and we're going to drop it off in your doorstep, and we're going to ring your doorbell and we're going to go away. So I think that was one of the biggest changes, is that we no longer saw those customers face to face. And there are still some of our customers that are regulars that we haven't seen in person. They just continue to place orders with us.
So, yeah. And so it just became, I guess, like fleshing out like the details of that delivery method, right? You listed it on your doorstep. Like, will you actually get it? Did we accidentally deliver to the wrong house? Will your dog eat these donuts? Like, all real life situations that happened. So there were challenges transitioning, but we had a lot of time on our hands.
And did the pandemic bring just the influx of interested customers?
I think so. Yeah. I think people were, again, looking for various things to be delivered. We live in a really, I think our community at whole really supports local businesses. We have a really good community of moms too that really support each other, to support each other's businesses. So I think that really, really helped us.
Like, all along, even before the pandemic, our customer base has always been, our customers have always been really loyal. When Amy's mom died, our customers really supported us in a way that I think for both of us was completely unexpected. We hadn't opened the cafe at that point. We were still doing deliveries and still doing donuts via other methods. And
it was Father's Day weekend. And we were really, I didn't know, like, do we cancel all the orders? I felt really, really bad canceling
on Father's Day weekend.
But in the same regard, like, there was our family was, just crushed. It was like, that was very unexpected. And we had like some young children. So we had to cancel, and I felt so bad. And so many of our customers, we just had like people saying, "Oh, don't refund our money. Like, here, we want you to go out and do something fun with your kids, or do something like this, or it's no, don't worry about it. It's no problem." Like nobody complained, which I think was not what we were expecting.
So can you share a little bit about these donuts? What makes them so special or so unique? What kind of flavors do you offer?
I think probably one of our more popular flavors is the hot cocoa, or anything with marshmallow on it. Like if you put marshmallow on a donut and it's homemade, people are going to gravitate to it. Other popular fun flavors have been our unicorn donut, which is a swirly, colorful glitter donut that pretty much anybody loves, with a birthday cake icing on it. It's pretty delicious.
Anything with edible cookie dough, people really like that. We also, again, we mentioned we live in an area adjacent to Ann Arbor, Michigan, so we do a good business with the University of Michigan students. Parents order donuts to surprise their kids, so we do various themes of maize and blue, and those are always popular. We partnered with a local individual that did a custom cookie cutter for us in the shape of our iconic Ypsilanti water tower. We do Rice Krispie treats and marshmallows in the shape of that water tower. And that is really popular with the Eastern Michigan University students, and the Ypsilanti crowd as a whole really likes that one. So we do a cinnamon sea salt Rice Krispie treat, and then we do a cinnamon marshmallow with that one. We also offer vegan donuts, which, it's many places do not offer vegan donuts. So that's a great option for people that are vegan.
Yeah, that was our number one, other than gluten-free and vegan, that was always requested. So eventually Amie said, we just need to figure this out.
Our son loves the vegan donuts, even though he is not vegan, but he says the vegan donuts are better than their traditional donuts. And specifically, we have one where there's an Oreo inside. So that one is very popular, and you can get it vegan or traditional.
Was it difficult to convert your recipe into a vegan donut?
Yes.
Although ironically, the best recipe that we found was written on a card that came out of your grandma's recipe sack.
My grandma, and it was like, when I was going through my mom's things, we found a recipe for like a sweet dough that didn't use
any eggs or any
butter or anything. And I think that recipe really was created at a time when, money was tight. My grandma had 7 kids. That sort of situation, certainly not because she was vegan, but I was like, wait a minute, this is vegan.
And it was delicious. It was absolutely delicious. And it was better than any recipe we had tried up to that point.
And we switched it.
We tweaked it a little bit, but yeah.
And we've, instead of, I think her recipe called for water, we do use almond milk in it instead. But yeah, we definitely had some vegan donut fails for sure.
So.
It's, yeah.
So if we were going to make a vegan donut, because neither one of us are vegan, neither our kids are vegan, if we were going to make a vegan donut, we wanted it to be something that was going to be delicious. And it certainly is delicious.
I also saw, in addition to just flavors, you have celebration boards. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, I think this really stemmed out of our wanting to spread some joy. So we often get birthday requests. And we did one day, we asked the parents, like, what is, it's for, I think it's for like a 5th birthday or party. And what is she like? And, of course, it's like rainbows and sparkles and all that jazz, because 5-year-old girl, it's just really common with 5-year-old girls. And so we created the donuts, and I was like, wait a minute, Jamie, let's make this into a shape for her. And first we tried a 5. It did not look well. It did not look good. It was a disaster. And then we made it into a rainbow. And when Jamie delivered it, like, the girl was she was excited. She was so excited. And our 6-year-old saw that and said, how come I can't have one of those for my birthdays? And then it was at that point that between the excitement between the 5-year-old and the excitement between our 6-year-old that we realized that we need to offer that on a regular basis.
Now, you mentioned that, you do a lot for U of M, and you also are, marketing to the Ann Arbor community. I noticed you do delivery for free to your own city and Ann Arbor, and then you only charge like $5 if you're going further from that. I was surprised to see that you offer that free delivery. Why did you decide to offer free delivery?
that's a point of
contention.
contention.
Yeah, Amie wants to continue the free delivery, whereas I would rather figure out how we can, gas isn't getting any cheaper. Our customer base is growing, so our delivery area is growing. Certainly something that we're considering addressing at some point, but I don't know. I don't know if we will or not.
It was a matter of just jumping in. We didn't have a strategy back then. And then, to be completely honest, during the pandemic, especially, I loved those hours by myself in the car. Like, I am an introvert. I need time alone. And I was forced in my house with my wife and my kids for however long it was, way too long. And so that time that I had delivering donuts, I generally, if it's a huge, like on the weekends, if we have a big delivery order, usually me will be the one who does most of the deliveries, and unless we have to split up.
Yeah, then I'll pick up some odds and ends, the outliers.
But yeah, so to me, like that time wasn't really work or effort, but rather an ability for me to kind of regroup myself and get some free time. So I never looked at it as like something I would charge for, because it was really a benefit to me. But as we look strategically, and as we know, everything, the cost of gas is really going up in price, we may have to reevaluate that. And we have slightly in that we do charge a delivery fee. Again, it's $5 for U of M campus deliveries, just because it takes some extra time to connect with students. Like if they're living in a dorm, we can't just leave them outside the dorm. We actually have to text the student and get a hold of them. And sometimes they are hard to get in touch with.
And you said that you both work full-time jobs. Is that still the case?
It is not.
So we had a transition in our life in the summer, and I am no longer working. I am now sort of all in with this donuts business and taking care of both kids, getting them to and from school. We've had some transition back to virtual learning and that I've dealt with. So we had that thrown in there. When I lost my job, eventually we were able to transition into more of a pop-up, farmer's market. Another one of Amy's sort of let's just do this was a purchase of the vintage camper, a 1969 Keystone camper that is currently sitting in a lot about 45 minutes away, and we haven't touched it since we bought it, but we hope to have that renovated and to be able to use for our pop-ups and our events come spring.
I mean, we couldn't have maintained the amount of energy we were putting forward our initial first year. I think it was unsustainable. So we did it. We managed to do it. We survived, but it certainly would not have been a great way of life. We couldn't have continued to manage full-time jobs with the business
and to continue to grow. We would have had to start saying no at some point, which Amy's not very good at.
No. so yeah, we really over the summer, we didn't do like a ton of deliveries because we did the farmer's market instead. And so we wouldn't have been able to do like the farmer's market weekly if Jamie was working still. It would have just been too much too hectic in our life, right. I think.
Yeah. So you said that you've done pop-ups now and you have this farmer's market. How has it been selling in person at events?
It's fun.
It's nice to see people again. When we started everything, when we had that in-person communication, we were seeing people, kids were standing in front of us, jumping up and down, taking the donuts. We were able to talk to people. When the pandemic hit, that went away, literally knock on the door, ring the doorbell, leave them on the steps. So it was really nice to get back. And I don't know if Amie feels the same way, because I'm usually the one that does the events, but I really like that in-person, connection with people. It's a lot of fun.
I'm a little awkward when it comes to small talk. I do like it. I think especially those first couple events, it's if I could, I would hug you. But thank you so much. We're just really appreciative of your support.
Did you find it was difficult to prepare for the markets? And have you figured out how much to make? Because, with donuts, I don't feel like they'd have a great shelf life, right?
They don't. And, if we don't sell donuts, then our kids in our close family end up getting them. But that is one of the biggest challenges with the perishable product. Our donuts are okay to the next day. They're not the best. So trying to figure that out and navigate that has certainly been challenging. I think we've sort of managed to figure out a pattern, but it's so variable based on so many things, even from one side of town to the next. Type of venue. Some events are successful at night where others aren't. It's just sort of no rhyme or reason to the factors that we take into consideration. But I think we're getting better at it.
Yeah, we got a decent sort of rhythm. Like with the farmers market, I think we kind of figured it out by the end of the season. But there was definitely some, lost product. It's not,
weather has a huge impact on whether it's an indoor event or an outdoor event. We found that weather has a huge impact on whether people will come out.
And you always run the risk, like you're going to sell out in 20 minutes, an hour, or you're going to end up with extra product. And like, how do you decide like that, what that fine line is, what that number is for you? And I think it's a real, just like personal thought.
Like what loss are you willing to assume and how much you want to make today? With us especially, like we get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, so we have to decide in that moment how much dough are we going to make, what are we going to do, and like I meant the weather, like if there's a storm that's going to roll through at the farmers market, probably not a lot of people are going to show up at the farmers market. So we really have to make those decisions quite early,
and you have to be okay with it. I think that's the big, like personally, just like being okay with whatever the outcome is. During December, we were signed up to do like a holiday market that was going to be outdoors. And it was on a Sunday. Saturday, the weather was awful here. Like it was snowing. There was close to like
60 to 70 mile per hour winds.
And when we looked at the weather before we went to bed or later in the evening on Saturday, they were still predicting like wind gusts and really bad weather for Sunday. So we had to cancel last minute for this event. And it turned out to be it was sunshine. The weather was perfect. It was still a Michigan day in December, but it was decent weather. But we can't
having a perishable product to make a decision.
You have to make that choice. And the donuts are not forgiving. The dough is not forgiving. So it's just how it went.
What's the process like for making the dough? You said you wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning to start the process.
It's a yeast-based donut, so that has to rise. And usually, depending on how cold it is, or whether it's rainy or whatever, that takes about an hour to an hour and a half. Roll them out, cut them out, and then let them rise again, and then fry them. Then they have to cool enough for us to be able to ice them. So we're usually done, if everything goes well, depending on how many orders we have, between 7:30 and 8. Sometimes it's a little bit longer, if we have a lot of orders, but it's usually about a 5-hour process.
And what is your pricing like, and how has your pricing changed over time?
We've done very little
pricing increase. We started off at $12 when we first started, $12 for a half a dozen. We have increased to $15 for a half dozen, but it's stayed that price since the pandemic started. We didn't incorporate the $5 extended delivery fee, and then the student delivery fee, and that's another sort of point of contention, right? $15 for a half dozen donuts is where are people's comfort levels in terms of paying for that? Even though our flour prices have gone up, our sugar prices have gone up, everything has gone up. Oil, oh my gosh, oil is obnoxious. But yeah, everything has gone up in price. So yeah, that's certainly another one of those should we or shouldn't we conversations that we continue to have.
Do you find that a lot of customers are just more than happy to pay the price, or do you get some resistance when new people come to the market and see your pricing?
That's a mixed bag, because the farmers market draws a very diverse set of people, right? You get people from all walks of life, all demographics, all it's just sort of everywhere. So it just depends. I mean, there's some people that are, you're not charging enough for your donuts, right? $5 because at the farmers market, we don't do them for that in a half dozen. We do them in a 2-pack. So we do 2 donuts for $5, which is the same price that we would, there's people that are like, you should charge more for that. Or there's people that are, that'll walk by and very angrily say, I'll give you 50 cents, right? So I think it just sort of depends.
Right. It's math. It's an equation. It's math. So you can't let, the naysayers, right, affect you. You really have to. And I think in addition to the equation, this is again where Jamie and I will probably disagree, is that you do have to like make sure that your product is at a price point that it's able to be sold, that people will buy it. And so I don't know if we increase our price, what that would look like in terms of sales. And I think the price point that we're at now is a good one. Again, I think our biggest, what we're fighting against is truly the price of oil.
And packaging.
Yeah.
Packaging and oil.
And I think we've found, like, I feel like the price of packaging is kind of stabilized, and we found decent packaging, but oil has just been increasing. And we tried to use other oils, and we had doughy donuts that people were complaining. It was not, nobody wants a doughy donut. It was really bad. So we really
had to go back.
Yeah. So we can't choose a different type of oil or a cheaper oil and still have our product turn out well. But it's also difficult to add, I think, the oil into like the equation, just because, when you think about like your flour, like, okay, I'm using 4 cups of flour, but oil like is in your fryer. And so I don't think we haven't like calculated exactly how much oil we use per donut, just because it's a harder thing. It's a harder thing to figure out.
So are you using Restaurant Depot to source your oil?
We are.
Yeah.
And what about your packaging?
Some from Restaurant Depot and some from another provider, another supplier that we've, the social media, like the cottage food groups have been pretty valuable in helping us sort of find out where to source, like when our packaging wasn't available through GFS, where to source different packaging from, where to source sprinkles, right? That kind of thing, where different like places and that we may not have discovered on our own without the support of those groups.
And I think the struggle was like the 2 packs of donuts, like the donuts that we sell at events, because like the smaller donut packaging was almost the same price as
and people want to see the donuts, so trying to figure out how they can see the donuts and the packaging, and
so we
what was the best
like a fancier box with like the clear, like you could see through. But now what we've went to, which works good, but probably not in the summer, is that we put we just have the donuts out for display and then have them in sort of like white, I forget what they're called like the number 3 eco box. So it's just like almost like a white carry,
like a white carry out sandwich box that you can't see through, but having the donuts out for display has worked out fairly well. We're able to get these boxes without issue. There hasn't been a supplier issue for the most part.
They're fairly inexpensive. But in the summer, in the farmer's market, when it's going to be really hot, we have a problem with the donuts melting. And we do already struggle with bees. So having the donuts completely out will make the bee issue worse.
Yeah.
So I don't know we don't have a plan for that yet. Again, I like to think about things like
at the last minute. She'll come up with something and then we'll just have to figure it out.
But I should be better at that.
So it sounds like there's some, issues with heat in the summer, add some complexity. What time of year do the donuts tend to sell best?
Well, January is the worst. Everyone's on a diet right now. So I think besides that, it's pretty
consistent.
Pretty consistent. I think also though, we control how much we want to sell. So you set those quantities, you set the expectation. But I think that we remain fairly consistent.
Right. We know how many donuts we can feasibly make without having to bring in somebody else to help us out. So we tend to keep it at that certain amount. The day of year that we will sell the most, I think this year will be similar to last year, which will be Fat Tuesday. That is the day last year that we did the most donuts or the most fried dough items. That was what sort of pushed us into having to buy the 20-quart mixer. So
in Michigan, there is a Polish donut that is traditionally ate on Fat Tuesday. It's called a punchki. I don't know.
It's a very dense donut, typically filled with a variety of fillings and ice or glaze.
Eggs in
very heavy dough.
And so that's a big day here in Michigan. And we will sell lots of donuts that day.
So what have you done to promote your business Obviously, you have the pop-ups and the markets, but have you done anything else like social media or press?
We have Facebook and Instagram that we post on. I think, though, honestly, a large part of our marketing, and especially early promoting, was from other area businesses discovering us and helping us out. We've had some very strong supporters from the beginning that without them, we wouldn't have gotten that early push for sure.
Yeah, we were at a local news channel. They do it's called Live in the D, and I don't know that brought in like a ton of extra business, but definitely we had a local children's store bought our hot cocoa bombs from us last year, and it gave them out as a Black Friday promotion, and that I think really, really skyrocketed our business
Right.
for sure. We also, again, like, so we do pop-ups at a local bar, York. It's called the York. It's like a bar/restaurant. They used to be a wine store. They've kind of transitioned into this really awesome place that promotes many local food startups, and that has really expanded.
Yeah. There's a coffee shop that we're regularly part of. So we've got, it's called Sweetwater. So the Sweetwater's little seedling in York Yard definitely have been a big part of, especially our early success, I think, in terms of marketing, getting word out there. That helps.
Yeah, and just customers like sharing, right? Like we have one customer who shared our information to a U of M parents Facebook page, and that's really how we got most of our U of M orders. So it's really just people word of mouth sharing and just wanting to support each other.
So you'd say these opportunities with other businesses or like the TV spot, these are things that just kind of came to you. You weren't actually seeking them out?
No, I don't think any of those opportunities were ones that we sought out. We certainly have sought out, I'll ask anyone like, hey, you want to do a pop-up? But in those instances, oddly enough, the ones now that we're talking about it, and I'm really taking the time to think about it,
they came to us.
They came to us,
right?
And really, we're our most successful opportunities. But I do think for someone who's interested in like starting to do a pop-up, or you're starting in your cottage food business, ask, what's the worst thing? What's someone going to tell you? No. And then you're going to get
lots of no's. Yeah.
Like someone's just going to say, oh no, that's not going to work for us, or it doesn't fit our scope. I mean, we did a pop-up at a place and it just wasn't a great mutual fit, and that's okay. Like, it's fine.
It's all right. Just move on. Go to the next one.
I guess you're always going to have people that you don't mesh with.
That's not our customer base. Not our customer. Yeah.
I did want to ask about how you've showcased the pride movement in your business. You've certainly been very upfront about the fact that you're a lesbian couple. That's right at the beginning of your Instagram description. And there's a rainbow on your logo, and you've done pride-themed donuts. Can you share a little bit about why it's so important for you to showcase that in your business and how it's affected your business?
Yeah, I mean, we're open in our lives with our kids and everybody around us. Sense of community is important to us in general, and they're our community, and they've also been very supportive of us too.
Yeah, we live in a pretty progressive community. I think too, we go back to what brought us here. What brought us this business is like a passion project. It was, and we wanted to find joy for ourselves in not if I'm gonna do something, right? I'm doing this thing. I think we share our lives very, very openly with our customer base and with our marketing, whether it be our kids or being a gay couple. All of those things are pretty predominant, because I guess I think that when you look at your other boxes in life, and you go to work, you have to be professional and fit into your own, if this is my plan now, this is my business, this is what I'm doing on my off hours for fun, primarily to get, I guess, some joy in my life. I'm going to be me. I'm going to share who I am, the things that are important to me with our customers, I think.
It's funny, it was just part of who we are, but I like driving down a block that we haven't delivered to before and trying to guess which house it is based on what yard side they might have or what flag they might have you flying out, and they always know who. We can generally tell. Driving down, a street, which customer of ours is who ordered. Right?
It is a joke between us. Like, okay, you can't find the house. Well, what kind of signs are?
Look for the Black Lives Matter sign. Look for the we believe in all love. Right? Like if any we can usually tell if you can't figure it out.
Is there a lot of bikes? Is there like kid equipment all over the place? I know, like just a few weeks ago, there was one where I dropped off the donuts to the wrong house, and I was like, I knew it. I could tell just walking up to that door that this was not our customer. Like their house, like when you could see in their little window, it was like perfectly clean with like white couches and like just like no signs of kids, no signs of nothing. It was like, yeah, I should have trusted my gut on that one.
We had a situation last year. We were featuring something we call an F-bomb at a local business that we did that also likes to use that word in their the items they carry in their store and just in general on their social media platform. And we had a customer who had previously ordered from us reach out and say that they would never order again based on the use of that of profanity.
Yeah.
So that was I think that was one of our few encounters with someone that was a previous customer that didn't appreciate our approach to
and that's okay. I mean, it's not okay. I was so upset. I want people to like me, and I was upset about that for sure. But then, like I said, I think it's fine. Maybe I don't take it as seriously as I should take it. I don't know, but I'm not gonna do something, put all my free time into something that I can't like be myself. And this is supposed to be a fun endeavor, and to do that, like I'm going to be myself.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting how, you've, for one, niched down on just mostly selling donuts now, but you've also really focused on your ideal customer. Your marketing might not appeal to everybody, but it's appealing to the right customer for you. And I bet that has helped grow your business overall. What about as we look into the future? Where do you expect this business to go, or where do you want it to go?
Another ongoing topic of conversation. I mean, we've maxed out what we can do in our home kitchen. It's already taken over our formal dining room. We either need to start saying no more, or we need to figure out what's next.
Yeah.
I mean, we've looked into various commercial kitchen spaces in the area. Being that we have a vegan offering, there, that makes it challenging because we want to keep our dedicated vegan fryer. Commercial kitchens don't support that. I don't know. Like, we've looked at other businesses in the area to try to partner with them. Haven't been met with much success there. That is something that's affordable for us, right? Because I don't necessarily want to be in a position to pay money to to sit there and watch dough rise. So I don't know. I don't really have an answer for that right now, but we know we need to do something other than the food truck. That's our short-term goal, I think, is getting that selling space ready to go. We won't be frying out of that food truck, but we want to be able to sell out of it.
We've like very passively considered like a brick and mortar space, and it sounds great, but then it's also terrifying in the same respect. And I think having that experience with the cafe, as brief as it was a really great learning opportunity for us, and in time to reflect, on what, again, is important for us and where we see this business going. A brick and mortar space means more time away from our kids, more time away from.
It's hard to make donuts at 3:00 in the morning, outside of your house, right? So yeah, that's certainly something to take into consideration.
So that, yes, it's working for us. This is working for us. Certainly, I'd love to have the space back in our home, but again, like, we're lucky to be able to have the space to do it. So we shouldn't complain too much about that.
There's something to be said for making donuts, while your kids are sleeping. They get up, their donuts ready. They get to be taste testers, right? They've certainly been a big part of this journey with us, and it's been good for them.
We just, we have the ability right now to make it meet our own schedule. We don't have employees or outside obligations or rent to pay. We can close down for a couple weeks and, decide that, we're going to take it slow for a few weeks because we have other priorities in our life right now. And taking that next step would put us in a spot that we'd have to really make a larger commitment that I don't think we're ready to make in our personal life yet.
I did see that you have this trade up to a food truck campaign. How's that going?
It fizzled.
Yeah.
We were going strong, and we still have an open offer for, we have a vegan wedding cake that we're still have an offer to trade up to, but it went strong for the first little bit. And even though we continue to try to, I had signs up at the markets and continue to try to trade up, we kind of hit a wall with that.
Yeah. And I think, again, it's just a matter of, I think it was just one of the things like we tried and we just didn't have like the energy to continue in marketing it well enough. Like, I think had we like done like some Facebook Live, like if we went like live, if we really had focused more in the marketing, I think maybe it wouldn't have fizzled as it did. But we were just like super busy.
I haven't given up on it yet. If somebody came up to us and offered a trade for a vegan wedding cake, that would be all right. Not made by us, but
yeah,
we have an offer for a vegan wedding cake out there.
For a vegan wedding cake. So yeah, I think it's a super fun idea, and I don't think we had the capacity to really
promote it
as much as we should have.
Well, hey, that's what business is, right? You throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what sticks, and clearly some stuff has worked well, and you've been doing quite well with your business, and it sounds like it's working well for you and your kids. And so why do you love running your business so much?
What's not fun about donuts? I mean, really, like, I don't know. It allows us creativity that we wouldn't get elsewhere in our lives right now. No, donuts are fun.
Yeah. And I think it's really a great lesson for our kids. I think that the ability for them to see like it's okay to take a risk, like you can like have an idea and throw it out there in the world, like what's the worst that can happen. Personally, that was something I was afraid of for a very long time, and this experience has taught me that you have to start somewhere. Like the first step is just starting. So I think that has been pretty awesome for our kids to witness that type of growth, for them to truly understand too what it means to make money.
Our oldest helps out at the markets. He comes with me and he helps me set up. He exchanges money with the customers. He makes change. He adds up things. He's been a part of every part of it.
Like in the most basic sense, like this thing equals this money. Like these are the steps you do to get this money. I think previous to that, it was all just sort of right? We go to work, money just comes in your bank account, like you pay for things. So I think it was like, I like being able for them to see that the real world example of commerce.
That's awesome. Well, it's really cool to see where your business has gone and how it's grown over time. And, I'm looking forward to seeing where it will go in the future. So if people want to learn more about your business, how can they find you or how can they reach out?
They can find us on Facebook and Instagram. It's a Good Day Donuts. We have a website as well. It's agooddaycafe.com. We're sort of reluctant to get rid of the cafe at the end. Maybe one day we'll be able to bring that back to fruition, but we decided to go with that for now.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on the show and sharing with us today.
Thank you so much for having us. We really had a good time.
And that wraps up another episode of the Forager Podcast. For more information about this episode, go to forager.com/podcast/52. And if you enjoyed this episode, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave me a review. A review is the best way to support the show and will help others find it as well. And finally, if you're thinking about selling your own homemade food, check out my free mini course where I walk you through the steps you need to take to get a cottage food business off the ground. To get the course, go to cottagefoodcourse.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.